Hello and welcome everyone to the Skinny Jean Gardner show on the 30th of September, live from the studio. Tonight we've got such a great show coming up. It's International, that's right, International Podcast Day, everyone. To celebrate International Podcast Day, I thought I'd bring everyone together on this amazing stream with you amazing people. We're going to go live. We're going to chat to so many people tonight. But first, let's have a bit of this. Facilia. Or Pacilia, if you just read it off there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm on.
Oh, I can't hear you, Anon. I've done something wrong with the thing. Anyway, elephant poo is what I got.
Good evening, Lee. How are you?
Great, mate. Your signal is always terrible, but I'm good, my friend. Excuse me. You got an allotment? When I go, don't put artificial grass on top of me, alright?
You're going to get composted, Lee?
Yeah, Welcome. There we are. Welcome to the show, everyone. Tonight, we've got a great show coming up for you. Like I say, it's International Podcast Day. We have some of the best gardening podcasters in the country coming on the show, including me. We all know that already. That's a given, isn't it? Don't worry, we're not going to rate our gardening podcasters tonight because we all know the answer. I'm only joking. Tonight, we have, first up on the show tonight, we've got Soul. You got Soul. So Walker is coming on the show, which is very exciting. Then we've got Tamsin Westthorpe is coming on the show to talk about her podcast. Then we've got Sarah Wilson from Roots and All. She's coming on the podcast too. Then later on, the one, the only, Mr. Michael Perry, he's coming on the show. Then we've got Jane Perrone. She's coming on. Ending with Mr. Richard Suggett. But let's kick it all off with this man, the bearded dream that is Mr. Soul Walker. Hello, mate.
Hello, Lee. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, man. Not too bad. Do you know what? It's so good to see you.
It's been a while. It's been quite a bit of time, hasn't it? Well, it's been a bit of time since I've seen anyone, really. All I see is Lucy every week. That's about it.
Mate. How's tricks for you? Have you found the last, however long, 7, 8 months?
It's been since March. It's been difficult, really tricky at times, because, both me and Lucy work professionally as gardeners at big places, and most of us have lost all our staff. So, especially for me, I've been without anyone. So I've been gardening 16 acres for about, 5 months. So I'm shattered. I can't wait for this year to be over.
Mate, the reason we've got you on is because you're awesome. And I'm not just saying that to I love you, Soul, but you know I love you anyway. Your awesome podcast.
Yes, which has gone really well this year. It's probably been the only saving grace of this whole year is that the podcast, which started as a bit of fun between me and Lucy, has actually done quite well this year. We're quite enjoying doing it. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with it.
What made you get into it?
Me and Lucy have been chatting for ages because we've known each other from BBC Gardeners World Live and a few other things about doing something to bring our voices as head gardeners out into sort of the wider public, I guess. And the podcast seems ideal. I met you and Mr. Richard Suggett, who you're going to have later on in the show, I'm assuming, and you two were doing podcasts. And we just thought, that's great. Both me and Lucy do local radio. Why don't we just do our own thing and make a little show of it? And it sort of all worked out. We started in January and it's gone from strength to strength.
It's like listening to we met through Gardens World Live, didn't we?
Yeah.
And like when I used to walk up on YouTube just chatting away to each other, it's literally just like listening to that.
No, that absolutely. That's exactly what we wanted. I think we started with so many ideas of making it quite a jazzy show. I thought I'd play around with all the sound effects and stuff. But in the end, it all just comes down, really, to me and Lucy chatting to each other about our days at the gardens, chatting about the things we like to do, answering questions. It works. I think, unlike a lot of the other podcasts, where it's generally one person, like you and Richard, I think having the two sort of takes the pressure off both of us to have to talk constantly. So it's quite good.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, mate. I can waffle for England. But
Yeah.
there's someone to chat to.
Yeah.
I can't believe you only started in January. It feels like you've been doing it for ages.
It does. Do you know, when we started in January, we were only thinking of doing one, maybe every 3 weeks, maybe one a month, and it was going to be quite a long sort of episodes. They're going to be about an hour or so. And then again, due to the pandemic, we thought people are going to want to listen to gardening, and especially at the start for the first few months, gardening was like, people were searching it out and trying to find out more about it because everyone wanted to go into their back garden and grow things. So we just thought, we might as well do a couple a week because we had nothing else to do. Literally, all of our extra work had dried up. We were literally just sat at home in the evenings and at weekends. So we just thought, let's just chat. We'll make it a shorter podcast. They're only about 20 minutes long, and people seem to have enjoyed it. We've got really good comments back from people on the social media and stuff. So it's worked really well.
Do you think it got you through like lockdown and stuff? Do you think that sort of really helped, just being able to chat to Lucy and sort of get all your thoughts out there?
I think so, because generally as head gardeners, especially if you're working for like some of the big organisations like the Trust and RHS and things, you tend to meet up with fellow gardeners, fellow head gardeners. I probably go out and see other people once a month at other gardens around here, and that just all dried up. So we just didn't see anyone in the industry at all. So having each other to chat to, saved our sanity as well. I think both of us will admit that we enjoyed the chatting than actually putting the podcast out and doing all the editing and stuff. We just chat to each other on the mobile without doing the recording. We'd be quite happy.
Because if you listen to your podcast, it actually sounds like you're in the same room, but
it's weird, isn't it? We've been doing it like this. We've been doing it almost like we're doing now. Apart from the first episode and some of the recent ones where I actually got to go up to Essex get out of Devon for the first time in months. We literally did it all over our phones, and then I edited it. It's all in the editing, isn't it?
It's all very clever, isn't it, mate?
Exactly.
Who and where or where has been the best? What's been your best podcast episode is what I'm trying to say, mate. Who's it been with or where's it been?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, we were thinking about that a bit ago, what we've really enjoyed. 2 episodes spring to mind, and they're quite a recent one. We did an interview with Anne Swithenbank, who lives down in this part of the world, and she was just adorable. She's really, really easy to talk to. And actually, I said to Lucy, the editing for that, because generally the editing can take me a bit of time taking things out. The editing for Anne's conversation was literally just leave it. And, it flowed so well, and we really enjoyed, because it's almost an hour long we were chatting to, and it seemed to go just like this. And then the second one we really enjoyed was our episode 50, because we got to episode 50 about a month ago, and we did this big list of our 50 favourite things in horticulture, and that was an epic. That was about an hour and a half, and that was really.
I didn't know when that was going to end.
Well, number 50, Lee. Number 50. You just got to wait till you get to that number. It's a bit like you and you. What was that list you did of influential gardeners, which me and Lucy did notice we didn't get onto at all. We'll have to do another one.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, exactly. But we did that, and we quite enjoyed doing that, because it's sort of thinking about the things that we really enjoyed in gardening and sort of making a list. Who doesn't like a list? Lucy loves a list.
Yeah, she really does. Yeah, everything in his own column, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. They go for pages. Trust me.
I think the reason I really like your podcast is because we've always had discussions about the garden industry and how should we put it, like proper gardening.
Yeah.
And I think your podcast really highlights that really well.
Yeah, it's definitely something we wanted to promote. I think the podcast sort of evolved to sort of feature some of the things that are going on in our gardening lives personally, but I think we like to make sure that we keep punctuating it with bringing out things to do with the industry and trying to encourage people to want to get involved, or if they're thinking about taking up as a career, just giving them a real honest picture of what it's like to be a gardener. And I think some people have appreciated that. We've had, the great thing is we've had comments, a lot of comments from amateurs, but we've also had a lot of comments from professional gardeners, especially people who work on their own or in small teams, that they listen to the podcast and it's like they've have a member of the team with them chatting about the garden, and sort of got them through again the harder times that we've had in this pandemic, or it just gives them something to think about while they're actually doing their gardening.
Yeah, you did a whole episode on careers, didn't you?
Sorry,
you did a whole episode on careers.
Yeah, well, we've done a couple. We try and punch it whenever something comes out in the news. Like the recent one was the RHS just launched their new career hub thing that was really, really, really excellent, and all these videos about the different jobs you can do. So we did a little one on that, but we're always trying to sort of give an honest picture of what it's like to do our jobs, what's going on in the gardens, at that time of year, and hopefully it gives people a bit more of an idea of what it means to actually get up at early o'clock and come home and do the day job in between.
Yeah, it's just not like, it's not just you going and pottering around Bork, mate. There's not more to it. Not that I ever thought that was the case.
Well, if you talk to my apprentice, she just thinks I go around leaning on a rake and pointing at things. So, that's about 50% of the time. That is what I'm doing.
What's the future of the podcast look like, dude? What's coming up?
Yeah, interesting, because it's sort of taken us a bit by surprise how popular it was. At first, we were quite happy when we got to 1,000 listens, and now we're in the tens of thousands of listeners. I haven't really looked at the details, but it's been a bit more popular than we think. So I don't know. I think the new year we're going to try some new stuff. We're going to sort of try and diversify a little, I guess. As the pandemic sort of closes down and we're able to do more, we are finding that our evenings are getting a little bit busier, and trying to sit down to do the editing is a bit more trickier. So we're not quite doing as many episodes as we were right at the start, but hopefully it'll continue, definitely continue with me and Lucy chatting about most things, but we might separate. And I know Lucy's very keen on her, well, everyone will know her as the veg and fruit queen of the internet. She just loves the fruit and veg. And I think she's going to maybe do a little mini series on that. And I'm going to probably do a mini series on exotic plants and things like that. And we're going to continue with the interviews, the bonus episode interviews we do, just trying to find more interesting people to talk to around the industry. We've got one coming up with a friend of yours, Mr. Matt Biggs. Got the Biggsies coming on. Actually, that's going to be quite a fun episode, because I don't think we talk about gardening at all. It's more about what he's up to.
You already recorded it?
Sorry?
You already recorded that one?
Yeah, we've recorded it. I've just got to sit down and edit out half the things.
Yeah, you don't actually have to say anything. You just have to say, "Happy Biggs," and then that's it. You walk away, you have a cup of tea for a half hour.
Yeah. Well, I think our usual length for our bonus episodes is 45 minutes, and I think we went on for about an hour and a half. So we may split it into a two-parter. I have a feeling that may happen.
You know what? I think a few years ago I had him, and mine had to be split into two parts. He has a story, doesn't it? Everything has a story. I think we were talking about pirates and botany at one point. I was thinking, how do we get it? How did that happen? I love that, man. For everyone that wants to listen to the podcast, mate, where can they go?
Well, the easiest thing is to go to our website, which is talkingheadspodcast, all one word, .co.uk. That has all the podcasts on it. But if you've got a specific podcast provider, we're on all the normal ones: iTunes, Google. I think Amazon's just bought. I think we've just been listed on Amazon. I think that's just started, hasn't it? So if you want to go there, Amazon's doing it, and Stitcher. But go to talkingheadspodcast.co.uk and you'll definitely find the links to those, or you can just listen on the website.
Nice one, dude. Final question for you before I let you go for the evening. What podcast or music do you listen to while you're gardening?
Do you know, I listen to a lot of, I've got really eclectic music taste, actually. So I think recently I was listening to some really old Ellie Goulding albums. I'm sure hopefully she's not listening to this. I'm sure she isn't. Well, if she is, you're doing well. But if she is, I don't actually like her new stuff. I actually like all her old albums before she became more famous. So you should go back and listen to some old Ellie Goulding, because she was actually really good back then.
I did not expect that answer.
Did you not? Really? Yeah, no, I'm really eclectic, really weird mix of music. I think I was listening to Nicki Minaj the other day. I was thinking, do I really like Nicki Minaj? And then I don't know.
Oh, what happened to you? We need to talk. Dude, thanks so much for coming on.
That's all right. Anytime. And good luck. I think you've got loads of people coming on now. Am I the first? I am the first, aren't I?
You're the first one, mate.
Well, I hope I've set it up well for everyone else.
100%. Cheers, dude. I look forward to seeing you soon, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. New year. Let's hope we can all meet up and actually see each other in our faces.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers, buddy.
Bye
Bye now. Bye-bye.
There we go. Sol Walker on the stream. So if you've just tuned in halfway through, it's International Podcast Day, and we are getting the best gardening podcasters up on tonight's show. So if you've got a question, if you're watching, you've got a question and you want to get it in, then please do. Our next guest. Hello, Tamsin.
Hello. How lovely to see you. Are you in your shed? You in the shed?
Yeah, it's like my shedio, I call it.
Is it freezing cold?
The walls are about that thick insulated.
Oh, well done. Good. I was just worried about you for a moment there.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. This is really exciting. It's a great idea.
I know, yeah. I thought I'd bring. I think it's just good. There's so many, like your podcast, for instance. You've got two. Have you got two podcasts out?
I'm very greedy. Yeah, I do actually. So I've got Fresh from the Pod, and I've got the Untold Stories of Gardening. So Fresh from the Pod is sort of lengthier interviews with gardening experts and celebs, etc. And Untold Stories of Gardening are more sort of me on the road. Haven't done many recently, actually, where I go and do mad things like meet foragers and I've also been to a chiropractor, had a treatment and did a podcast on that to resolve gardening pains and aches. So but the one I've been working on more recently because of lockdown is Fresh from the Pod, which has been great actually. It's kept me busy and it's been good fun.
How long have you been podcasting? Because you've been going for about a year now, is it?
I think I'm on my 30th episode of Fresh from the Pod, so it's just over a year. Wow. And it was only today that I thought, crikey, I've done 30 episodes. It's amazing how they build up actually, and what you've learned along the way as you do it. Yeah,
definitely. What was it that got you into podcasting? Why was that I mean, obviously you do so much more. I know that. But as a platform of podcasting, what got you into it?
Well, I think, to be honest, I do a lot of garden talks and I drive a lot on my own, coming back late at night from places. And I like listening to people talk rather than music. I love music, but when I'm driving and I'm tired, I find getting into something keeps me going. So I got into podcasts then, and I was listening to Claire Balding's ramblings as she walks with people, and I just thought, these are really good. I mean, to be honest, I hadn't really thought of podcasts before, and I thought, I wonder if I could give this a go, and I did, and it's not as easy as you think, actually, is it? For all those people out there that think it's a walk in the park.
A lot more involved, than just chatting.
Yeah, absolutely, there is. Yeah. So, I think during lockdown, being able to record them on Zoom and carry on, I was so worried about that. I thought, oh goodness me, how am I going to go and do my podcast? And also because I like to have a really long conversation with somebody, and I want to get quite a lot of personal things out of them. You think, is that possible through a computer screen? And it has been, actually. People are very generous once you start talking to them. People have been fantastic.
you think it's harder through this sort of thing though? Because I used to interview people at like shows and stuff, and obviously we've not had that this year. And you can sort of read people better when you're like physically. I mean, it's the whole problem with Zoom, isn't it? Like, there's being actually in the room with someone, you can read their body language more than over this.
And I think you feed off things that are surrounding you. So if I'm visiting someone in their home, you know, you meet their dog and then that becomes part of the conversation. They might have just made some bread, or you might have passed some beautiful dahlias as you go in. You're missing all of that. So you're relying purely on the research you've done. And it is much more difficult. I mean, I did a really hard one. Who did I interview? Ejeka McVicker, and she couldn't work out how to turn her video on, bless her. So we did it blank screen. I mean, that's really, really hard. And that's when it's useful that I know or have met the guests on most occasions. I mean, most of the people I've interviewed, I have met quite often, so that is very, very helpful. But gosh, yes, I'd rather go and sit with them, most definitely. And also, when you're recording on Zoom, some people have bad habits, like they'll tap the table, or they'll be flicking a pen, and all of that picks up on your recording. And if you're with them, you can just grab their hand and, you know, stop it. So things like that, those are challenging.
I'm bad at telling people, don't do that.
And I remember interviewing Nick Bailey from Gardner's World, and he came to my home actually, and we were sitting at the dining room table, and the chair he was on was really squeaky. And I just thought, oh, why didn't I say anything? So even little things like that, as a podcaster, you've got to think about all the little surround sounds and technical kit. And it's a lot more to it.
Who's been, because obviously you do research, who's been your most interesting person that you've researched and then most look forward to actually interviewing and getting down to find out more about?
Oh, do you know, I thought you might ask me that, and I don't know. I mean, they're all so different. And I think the person that surprised me the most and has been the most honest was Mark Lane from Gardner's World. Now, really Mark is the first presenter who uses a wheelchair. And, you know, when someone's had a terrible accident, you think, I don't know if I really want, you know, should I mention it? Is he going to want to talk about it? But he was just, I mean, I was nearly weeping by the end of it. His story was so unexpected. And I hadn't realised, although I'd researched him, I hadn't realised, you know, what an incredible publishing role he had before, and how his entire life just came crashing around him. So he's been one of my favourites purely for his honesty. And I found myself going through lots of different emotions talking to him. So that was a really good one. And then Simon Lysett, I really wanted to talk to. He's the sort of royal celebrity florist. And I'd been communicating with, I'd been following him on Instagram, and he sent me a message to say, I just love your book. And I thought, oh my God, you know, I was so excited. I thought, right, this is my in. You know, so I sent him a message back, and we got chatting, and he agreed to do a podcast, and he was just fantastic. I mean, again, he's done some amazing things. He's a brilliant speaker. So that was very exciting. But probably during the sort of height of lockdown, I managed to get an interview with Dr Amir Khan.
Oh, yeah.
Have you come across him?
I have, yeah. He's
the amazing GP that sort of does these victory dances around his garden on a Friday night on Twitter. And I thought he'd be just fantastic to talk to. And I did think, is he relevant enough? You know, is it gardening? But actually, he's fanatical gardener. And that was very moving, because I hadn't realised, I had, but I hadn't actually heard a GP, you know, who was on the front line, say and explain how terrified he was about catching the virus. And that was quite enlightening.
Yeah, I didn't listen to that one. My brother absolutely loves him, so I'm gonna have to tell him to listen to that one as well. as well.
And what I loved is he's got 6 sisters and a mother. What a guy to grow up with 6 sisters. I thought, he's brilliant. So I think we'll see more of him.
Who do you really, really want to get on the podcast? Who's your ultimate up there guest?
Oh gosh, I would love to talk to Jo Wiley. I've met her, and I did do something with her at Malvern. We did a women's forum together about gardening. And I just think her voice is amazing. She just seems an incredibly calm and together person. And I know she's really keen on gardening. So, it would be really good to interview her. Who else would I like to? Fergus Garrett, I'd quite like to interview.
Yeah.
From Dixter, because my uncles know him well, and they remember they used to go and stay with Christopher Lloyd. So they've got lots of fun stories about Dixter. So that would be great to talk to him. But I think really it's whoever is really relevant. And as you know, you've got to find people that are prepared to open up, they're prepared to talk. My podcasts are quite different in that they're very organic. So the person I'm speaking to, I don't have a set list of questions. They go off in all sorts of unexpected ways. So I do need people to be quite, honest, and maybe tell me things that they don't always talk about. I'm looking for different facts, really.
Have you ever had anyone that's just a little bit difficult? You'd have to name them, but just a little bit difficult to in a little bit, get something from.
Do you know what? No, because I think I tend to have a phone conversation with them before, so I would pick up on that and think, oh gosh, not quite sure. No, I mean, I think actually I did a really good interview on Untold Stories with Helen Picton from the Picton Gardens. And Helen will be honest enough to say she's really nervous. She doesn't like doing these things. But I actually found that quite lovely about her, because you don't want people to suddenly become like a circus clown when that's not their personality. I think there could be something quite lovely about someone that's a bit sort of, is anyone going to be interested in this? So if you manage them well and you come up with the right questions, I find that quite challenging, actually. I quite, I think I quite like trying to pull things out of people.
Yeah, that's good. Ask this to Sol. Hopefully you don't say Ali Gordon, because he said he loves Ali Gordon. But what do you listen to in the garden, whether that be music or podcasts?
Right, okay. So I did listen to Sarah Wilson's Roots and All the other day, and I do listen to Saul's and Lucy's podcast. But because my Wi-Fi is rubbish at the garden, I do actually mainly listen to my radio. I listened to Jeremy Vine. Again, I'm a bit of I like to listen to sort of chat show host people, because I think you learn from that. So I love Chris Evans because I think he's brilliant at interviewing people. I really like, my husband tells me I should turn it off because it's too depressing, but I really like LBC, which is just like constant debate and news. And I don't know why, my family, if it's on when they come in, they turn it off. If I'm in the garden with my family, my husband has a big speaker. He puts loud music on to probably drown out my documentary style listening. And he's really into music, so we have anything from Queen. He loves sort of the Gypsy Kings. He's really, really music 24/7. And so I think when I'm on my own, I think, oh, lovely. I'm going to listen to stuff that my boys would absolutely hate.
Why the LBC? I just get really angry, so I can't listen to that.
No, I know. I don't know why I do it to myself. It's really ridiculous. So I start talking to myself when I'm gardening. I don't know. It's. I don't know why I've got into that, but there we are.
Yeah. Where can everyone find your podcast, Tamsin?
Pretty much everywhere, like most of our podcasts are. You can go to Candide, the Candide website, and there's a whole page on the podcasts. They're on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, all those things. If you just put in Fresh from the Pod, I should pop up. But I mean, anyone that's listened to them, I mean, I'm just thrilled that you have. It's lovely, isn't it, to hear from listeners? It's I think people have got no idea when they send you a little message to say, "Oh, I love that." It does help us, doesn't it? It really does.
Doesn't it? It makes a difference to get some interaction.
Absolutely.
Tamsin, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight.
Well, it's brilliant, and I think this is a genius idea. So thank you very much, and I hope it goes. I hope you've got lots of lovely guests lined up. And lots of people tune in to watch.
You're not.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to
Thanks for having me.
See you later.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
There we go, everyone. So tonight, if you've just tuned in, we are celebrating International Podcast Day with the best gardening podcasters in the UK. So if you're tuning in, let us know in the comments. Let's have an ad break and then let's chat to some more gardening podcasters. Hey, what's going on? This stream and the podcast is sponsored by Flymo. Flymo, your life easy. My nan absolutely loves Flymo, and she was the one that first introduced me to Flymo, the brand Flymo, way back when I first got my new home, because she used Flymo in her garden. Then she bought my mum and dad a Flymo when they got their garden. And then when I got my garden, my nan bought me a Flymo. It's been in the family for years. Absolutely love it. They're such a great product. They're quality, they're affordable, and they think about how to make it easy for you to go cut the lawn, cut those edges, and do those gardening tasks. So flymo.com if you want to get your hands on some of their products, plus spend over £45 and you, yes you, dear listener, can get free delivery. Oh! Go check it out now, flymo.com. The Skinny Jean Gardener, How to Get Kids Gardening book, it's available right now. That's right, in all good, well, on Amazon mainly, to be honest with you, on amazon.co.uk or .com, wherever you're in the world. Amazon, How to Get Kids Gardening is available right now. It's a $9.99. Oh yes, my self-published work, $9.99. Let's have a little flick to see what you could be doing. You could be making this, wildflower seed balls. My favourite gardening make. A little bit messy for the kids, but brings some incredible colour to the garden. There's over 30 gardening makes inside this book that you can do with the family to get outside and enjoy whatever space you've got. Amazon.co.uk, How to Get Kids Gardening. Would you like to sponsor and support this stream? Yes, you. Actually, not you, but you. Yes, you. Have you got a product or service you'd like to advertise? Then this is the space for you. You get yours truly to advertise your product in a very, very unique way. Thanks very much. Plus, get it put in front of literally tens and tens of people. There's at least 12 people watching right now. Probably more. Probably. If you want to get your product or service in front of them, then this is the place to be. Free advert, a show, plus we'll talk about it a little bit after each advert, no doubt. That's free, that's 4 times a week, that's 12 times. Guys, 12 times. If you want to get involved, if you want to support the show,
It's not as expensive as you think, guys. It's not expensive as you think. Lee at skinnyjeangardener.co.uk.
Back-to-back interviews tonight on the show to celebrate International Gardening Podcast. It's a day, yeah. International Garden Podcast Day. How are you all doing, everyone? I'm the Skinny Jean Gardner. So, 2 interviews to start the show with in the first quarter. We're on till 10 tonight. We had the awesome You Got So Mr. Soul Walker on the show from the Talking Heads podcast. And then we had Tamsin Westthorpe from the Fresh Off the Pod. Yeah, I think that's it. Fresh Off the Pod podcast. Coming up tonight for the rest of the night, we've got Sarah Wilson, who we are literally waiting for. She's coming in on the show any minute now. Then we've got Mr. Michael Perry coming up on the show. I once sported my beard after. I haven't got a beard now, but when I did have a beard, I thought I'll get a Perry beard. Didn't really happen. Then we've got Jane Perrone, and then we've got ending it all, the Fab, and you, dear listener, will know him, Mr. Richard Suggett, to end the night with. You can comment if you want. No calls tonight. Usually we're here Monday to Thursday, 8 till 10, chatting gardening. No calls tonight, but you can comment. So let's have a little look at your comments while we're waiting for Sarah to pop up in the stream. Who we got here? Perry is actually watching. Smart Perry. Ian says, Ian, it's highly looking forward to tonight. Wicked. A up from Suggett. A Soul. Evening all from Alex. Stuart says, good luck tonight. Alison's here. Hello, Alison. Ramblins is brilliant. Listen to the ones you did with Fergal Sharkey. Happy podcast day, says Alex. Alison says, I've become a mini production crew recently, transforming environmental education online. Oh, it's all going down there. I've never. What is this? No. Oh, is it compulsory to wear a scarf if you're a podcaster? That was just by accident. I don't usually wear a scarf on the show, do I? But no, it's not compulsory. A huge LBC fan, says Perry. And Stuart Jackson says, what one piece of advice would you give a newbie podcaster? Well, maybe we're going to find out because... Hello, Sarah.
Hello.
Is that plant all right? You're just sorting your plant out?
I was putting my phone on the windowsill because it's the only place I'll get reception.
Oh, classic. How are you? Nice to see you.
And you, how are you?
I'm good. Happy International Podcast Day, which no one else knew about until I started throwing this thing about.
I know. I forgot all about it.
It's a big one. Thank you so much for joining us. Roots and All podcast. How long have you been doing it for?
I have been doing it for just over 2 years now.
Wow, it feels like you've been around for ages doing podcasting.
Yeah, it's gone quick. I think because I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I love it. I love doing it. I think 2 years has kind of gone by in the blink of an eye, really.
How would you sum up your podcast?
It is very much kind of wildlife focused. It's interview based. I started out with just me doing it and I got really bored of the sound of my own voice. So I thought guests were much more interesting. So now it's purely interviews and it's with people who are experts in their field. So, you know, anyone who kind of has got a story to tell or is particularly good at a particular thing, they're kind of welcome on the show.
Who would you say are your top 3 people that you've been chatting to?
Oh, that's really hard to answer.
Have you had quite a few that you've really enjoyed?
Yeah, there's been loads. I couldn't really pick. I suppose I like speaking to people who aren't necessarily in the public eye, or whose work isn't that well known. They're always the interesting ones, I think.
Yeah, like giving people like a voice that you wouldn't usually hear on a podcast.
Yeah, and you definitely wouldn't hear on kind of gardening, traditional gardening media. So yeah, that's always a good thing.
In the garden, like who do you listen to? Like when you're doing your gardening, like who do you listen to?
I don't. Do you know what? I don't listen to gardening podcasts anymore. Not really. No, I listen to a lot of. What's that?
It doesn't have to be gardening podcasts.
Oh yeah, I really like one called Crime in Sports, which is these two American comedians, and they profile a sports star who's got in trouble with the law, and quite often they're American ones, but sometimes they'll do a British one, and it's just funny trying to hear them pronounce the names and stuff. They'll pick a football player, but yeah, they're really, really good fun. Not very, very sweary, not very PC, but I do like that one. How about you? Who do you listen to?
Do you know who I've been really enjoying recently is Mark Maron. Have you heard of him before?
No.
He interviews so many. It's mainly American people, but I just really like his style of interviewing people, and he's like really honest at the start. Like he's been through a lot through like coronavirus and stuff, and he's really honest about it, and it sort of makes me cry and makes me laugh, and I mean anyone that can make me cry just through audio is a win for me.
yeah, that's quite rare. I'm trying to think of anything that I've listened to that's moving. Not so much movie. I don't know. Do you know what? I'm the same with films. I don't listen to anything that's kind of going to bring me down. I'm in my old age. I'm just getting really. I'm like, no, I haven't got time for stuff that's going to make me cry. I like stuff that's going to make me laugh. So I tend to listen to the funny ones.
Keep upbeat with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We got a question through, Sarah, earlier on from Stuart Jackson, who says he's got, what one piece of advice would you give a newbie podcaster?
I would always say get on and do it, because it's really easy to put it off and to try and get it right and try and get the right equipment and to, organise a script. And I think you've just got to get on and do it. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I go back and listen to my old episodes, which I don't because it's hideous, it's horrible, and you're not going to get it right straight away, and it will evolve and it will change and it will improve. So yeah, the sooner you get doing it, the sooner you can get better at it, I think. So yeah. Get on and do it.
I remember doing my first episode. It used to be 15 minutes and I couldn't edit it or nothing, and I used to do it in my van down the end of my phone. And I mean, to be honest with you, the stick hasn't really changed since then, but they're just longer podcasts now.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't upgraded any of my equipment. The only thing I've done is started editing them myself, because I used to get someone to do that and it cost me money. And I thought, oh God, I'm not making any money out of doing this, so I can't afford to edit it or get it edited. So I do that myself now. But yeah, I mean, everything, there's just no barrier to entry really, as long as you can get a bit of, very rudimentary gear together, you can just get on and do it. So yeah, no excuses, get on and do it.
Definitely. Alison has just put a comment in saying, hi Sarah, I'm working on rewilding projects involving schools, unused land, and seeing it as a learning resource. Would love to share experience. Might have a guest there for you.
Yeah. Well, Alison, email podcast@rootsandall.co.uk and let me know what you're up to.
There we go. Sorted. What's the future for Roots and All podcasts, Sarah? Where's it going? What's how do you see it?
I have no idea. I've just recorded about 5 interviews in the past couple of weeks, but normally I can get right up to the week before and have no clue who's going to be on it and what I'm going to be talking about. So yeah, planning is not my strong suit with a podcast. So there are no big plans at the moment, but just keep on doing what I'm doing and see what develops. Because I think probably you find this as well, that the beauty of doing them is that lots of things come off the back of it, and it might not even be podcast related. So yeah, I just kind of go with the flow with the podcast.
Was it last year you won Gardner Media Guild Award?
It was last year. Yeah. November.
It feels like, but that must have been cool.
Yeah, really good. Yeah. Yeah. Nice evening. I was really ill on the night, and I'm sure everyone thought I'd just got really drunk celebrating, but I was so away with the fairies. I met Sophie LeGill on the night, and she's just been on the podcast, and I saw her again afterwards, and I said to her, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," because all I could say to her was, "I love your work. I love your work." And I was just so knackered. I was like, really spaced out. But it's a good do, and it's a shame it's not going to be going on this year. So, hey ho.
Yeah. I remember someone pointed out that I listened back to it the other day, but quite an embarrassing episode of me laying into the Gardner Media Guilds because I didn't get shortlisted. I listened back to it, and like a literal child, I was like, I'm not happy about this, and I was crying down the end of a microphone. So that will be deleted soon.
No, keep it up for posterity. I mean, it's honest, it's open. You were fed up, it's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like a child. So where can everyone find out what on obviously everyone can get it from Apple and Spotify and things, but if people want to find out more about the podcast, how can they do that?
They can go to the website, which is rootsandall.co.uk, or as I said, they can email me. I'm on social media. Yeah, follow me there.
Nice one, mate. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Being part of the top 6 or 7 people that got back to me. It's a great community though. Like, do you speak to many other podcasters in the like gardening world of podcasting?
Mainly just you and Richard. Oh, and Michael Perry. Yeah, I have a chat with him occasionally. But yeah, no, good bunch, definitely.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you said that. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, and
you too. Enjoy the show.
Cheers.
See you. Bye.
Bye. There we go. Roots and all, everyone. If you want to go and check that out. Thanks so much, Sarah, for coming on the show. There we go. 47 minutes in. I've never been. We've never had such a quick show. We've got so many back-to-back interviews tonight, celebrating International Podcasting Day. And if you want to listen back to this tomorrow morning, maybe you've just popped in halfway through the stream. That's fine. That's cool. The whole episode tomorrow, the whole 2-hour episode will be going up on the podcast, so you can listen back to the fabulous podcasters. And in the show notes, I'll make sure that I put in where you can find out more. Right, we're going to have another ad break, and then after the ad break, we're going to have Mr. Michael Perry. So let's hit it. This stream and the podcast are sponsored by Flymo, flymo.com. I'm going to tell you a little story about Vince. Vince came into my home and basically took over the biggest gardening task, which, I'll be honest with you, took a little bit of time because usually I'm away. I'm jet setting from Birmingham to Devon, all over the country, which means that when I come home, the first task I've got to do is my lawn. Now, Vince came along and we welcomed him to the family, and now I feel like he's taken over my position in this household, which is not good. Vince, I should add, is my robotic lawnmower. Oh yes, Flymo's robotic lawnmower. Literally, you set it up, there's an app on your phone, you set it up, and every day, all week, however you want to do it, Vince, or the robotic, you can call it what you want, but ours is called Vince, goes out and cuts your lawn. Oh, made so simple. Go check it out right now at flymo.com. Spend over 45 quid, you get free delivery. You can't say better than that, can ya? So yeah, go check it out. Get your own Vince. Have you heard? I've got a brand new book. It's not brand new. I know that. It was out in February. But to you, it may be brand new. How to Get Kids Gardening is available right now on amazon.co.uk. Let's have a little flick to see what great gardening makes over 30 that you could be doing as a family. Maybe you could be making stone and spoon markers, because we all know that labelling up your seeds as you put them into the soil is very important. If not, you've got no idea what's popping through when the little green shoot. That could be anything, couldn't it? Make some stone markers. Really simple, really easy, and really inexpensive. All the gardener makes in here, just literally the costs hardly anything. I don't know how I can say that. Hardly anything, mate. Hardly anything. Come on around. How to Get Kids Gardening. Amazon. Come on that round. Would you like to support and sponsor this stream? Then you can. You can get your product or service in front of people like Richard from Littlehampton or Sean from London, even Lisa in Northern Ireland. Yeah, we're Mr. Worldwide. I think we've got some people from Australia as well. So if you're from Australia, this is the place to be. If you want to support or sponsor the stream, then please get in contact at lee@skinnyjeangardener.co.uk and your advert could be at this point right now. So it is International Podcast Day, everyone. Today on the stream we've gotten perfect English, the best gardening podcasters in the UK, including I was going to make a little dig at him, but I won't.
How are you? I told you off about the digs, haven't I?
I can't help it. There's something in me that just always wants to dig you out.
I think it's jealousy, and I told you you looked cute the other day as well, so you really owe me for that.
I know, but I did just say that at the start of the stream that I tried to grow a Michael Perry beard and it just didn't happen. So,
but you could have.
Or it did happen.
Yeah?
Yeah, but then we'd like it'd be rubbish.
Well, you can try. Anyway, thank you for inviting me on this. It looked like a really nice, nicely put together show. Well done, man. It's really cool.
It's surprising, isn't it, for me? How are you, man? How's things going?
Yeah, really well. Yeah. We just we've been at Cambridge Botanic Garden today, me and the Melon. And we did an interview with a physicist or a chemist about their plants with superpowers display. So that was pretty cool. And we had a bit of a catch up, just talk about the next series, which is series 4. Can you believe? Which is pretty incredible. And kind of put to bed some of the plant-based TV videos that we've been doing as well. So kind of finish some of those off, which are being released over the next few weeks. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll come to that later on, mate. Michael, what got you two into podcasts, and the thing that you two both do so much? You and Anne both do so much stuff. What was the thing that said you two should come together and chat?
I don't know. It's always really hard to pinpoint the moment where you started to do a certain project. Obviously, I met Ellen through Garden Tags. Do you remember the app, Garden Tags? A few years ago.
I do remember it.
Yeah, and we just started doing some different projects here and there, and I did a presentation at her club. And at some point, I had a eureka moment, and it was just like plant-based podcast, blah, blah, and it just happened. But I can't remember if it was her idea or mine. So for the purpose of clarity, it was mine.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's what it is. I really like your podcast. I said to you before when I was on yours that when you two both started your podcast, you did so much PR for it that it brought so much attention onto gardening podcasts.
Yeah, really. Well, we paid for it as well, so we paid for your PR. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's what I'm thanking you. Cheers, mate.
Typical. But I hadn't really realised that is what had happened and what we managed to influence. Because it's hard to measure PR anyway, but it's really interesting that you have the feeling of that.
Yeah, I felt it. I saw figures go up as soon as you'd come along, so I was like, "Yeah, cheers, dude."
Yeah.
But the reason I like the podcast is because you went like down this plant-based sort of direction, and obviously it's changed a little bit since that, but you're still really sticking clear to that. Like, why was that?
Well, kind of, but actually, it's almost a bit misleading because it's plant-based, but that doesn't mean it's just about plant-based foods and diets and being a vegan, which I'm not, Ellen is. But it's kind of about plant-based as in a plant-based life. So everything that comes back to plants, whether you're eating them, drinking them, wearing them, or growing them. And that is obviously where the kind of plant geek side comes into it all as well. So, yeah, it just, both Ellen and I love getting out there and talking about plants. So it just made sense to have this podcast that was able to cover everything to do with plants, everything coming back to plants. So yeah,
I remember in your first series you did like the one with who was he's got quite the similar body shape to me, the herbivore the fitness guy who was like,
you mean the really muscly guy? Hench herbivore, yeah, he's a vegan bodybuilder. So yeah, it's really fun trying to just find those people that are just a little bit different, doing something unusual with plants, and that was a brilliant example of that. But competition is getting really hot because Sarah Wilson, Roots and All, she does such a great podcast. She's always uncovering really unusual subjects, and Tamsin's one is super good at doing that as well. So I feel like we really have to keep on our alert, if you know what I mean, which is a good thing, isn't it? Because it makes us all work harder and kind of dig around and get those more unusual stories out of the place.
Yeah, that's what it is really. It's finding stories that generally just never heard before, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And so, we've always got, I don't know how you plan your podcast, but we've always got kind of like a running list of kind of things that we're wanting to get around to interviewing, and because that's what I wondered. I don't know how much other people plan their podcasts, because Sarah was just saying she sometimes doesn't know until that week what she's going to have in a podcast. But I guess because Ellen and I are not always together, we're a little bit more ahead than that. But I guess if it was just a individual solo podcast, perhaps I would be planning it a little bit more by the seat of my pants, as it were.
I mean, we just do it literally day by day, and I just hope someone calls in now. That has changed.
Do you really? So you don't necessarily have a schedule. You would know at the beginning of the week what you're going to do for the next podcast.
Yeah, like now I've got like all the guests we have on the show now are all about kids gardening and the schools and stuff. But the awesome people we've got VIP cards now, mate, on this podcast. So if you call in regularly, yeah, I mean, at the moment, there's no benefits to having it apart from a picture of me. But hopefully, although actually, the only benefit is that you can call in and you can talk for as long as you want. So if you want to come on the show and you've got a VIP card, you can talk for 2 hours straight if you want.
That is cool, though. Yeah, no, I like what you're doing with these live shows. It's pretty cool.
It's good. I mean, you must have found it because obviously we've had lockdown and stuff. And I always, as soon as you started your podcast, I used to see you going around the showground chatting to these people. And obviously, since lockdown and since coronavirus and all that thing, none of us have been able to do that. That's one of the reasons I've changed it up on here. Right. Like, how have you found it? Like, how has that got you?
Yeah, do you know what? It's weird because I don't know if I've ever had that much patience for the digital side of it. Like, I've done some digital stuff and I've done some digital kind of workshops, a couple of those and such. But I'm almost like, I just prefer real life, and I'm almost like want to hang on until we can do the things in real life. Like Chelsea Flower Show, the virtual version, like it was really well put together, but it wasn't a substitute for being there in real life. I think maybe it could develop to be a really nice kind of side dish to the main Chelsea show, which makes it more accessible for everyone around the world. But kind of virtual is never a substitute for real life. So I don't know if I've really done much in terms of communicating with people in that way over that time. I mean, I was doing some like Plant Geek quizzes on Instagram, and I did some like Instagram lives and stuff like that. But yeah, probably don't do lives as much as I should, really. I don't know.
I remember in lockdown you were doing a lot of lives.
Yeah, was I? Yeah, I guess the Plant Geek quiz was every day, wasn't it? So yeah, that. Yeah.
When you're not listening to yourself, what do you? I told you I can't help it. What do you listen to?
In podcasts?
In podcasts or music?
Yeah. Well, Tamsin was saying about LBC. I'm an LBC addict as well. I've literally got it on all the time. You know, I've got the app playing through the car. I really like Sheila Fogarty. If you listen to it, she's at 1 p.m. every day. She's really good. She's not sponsoring our podcast, by the way. But what do I listen to? That obviously music. I like unusual niche dance music almost. In terms of podcast, I'm a big fan of the EastEnders podcast. I'm a big EastEnders fan. Yeah, not even ashamed. So I listen to that religiously. There's also another very cool one called Distinct Nostalgia. And this is a guy that has interviews with all people like from our childhood. So programs that we remember from when we're kids. He goes and talks to the actors and the actresses. It is brilliant. It's called Distinct Nostalgia. Also, I listen to a few music ones. So there's one called Track by Track, where they talk about all the songs on an album. Another one about Kylie as well. They talk about all her albums. So yeah, my podcast tastes are just a bit camp. Really.
Not a whole podcast just on Kylie, right?
Yeah, it's each episode is talking about an album that she's released and analysing it. And I know another one that I love. It's called Unflopped. And this is by 3 guys, and they're talking about music. And each episode, they take 2 songs that didn't perform in the English charts and that they feel should be unflopped. And so they almost like go up against each other. But it's really interesting because they talk about the history of the artist. They talk about how the song was released, the marketing. They even talk about the structure of the song and the chorus and the verses, and it's really good. And at the end of it, they then award it the unflop status. It's really good. So you should look that up. I don't know if are you into music much or not? I'm not sure.
I've been listening to a lot of dance music recently for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe because I want to be cool and down with the kids. But I just listen to podcasts. That's all I really listen to be honest with you. Just out and out.
What podcast do you listen to though?
I listen a lot to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan. He's a good one. It got a lot of interest in people. Mark Maron, who I talked about earlier, he's really good. American. I listen a lot to Ian Lee. I listen to his show quite a bit. I mean, they're the 3 main ones, and then there's some other. Where's my phone? Actually, I listen to yours. I mean, I try and listen to as many gardening podcasts as possible.
Yeah, I must admit I don't listen to another one that often. But if there's a certain subject that I hear and I want to, hear about it, then Tamsin's one where she interviewed Carol Klein. I really wanted to listen to that and really enjoyed it as well. Yeah.
Who would be your ultimate guest, Terry?
I don't know. Who's yours now? Monty Don's been done.
Do you know who I've been trying to get on the podcast for a while? Is Ron Finley.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have contact with him or?
Well, I messaged him and he said, "Yep, cool." And then I've not actually got any further with it because of that.
Ah, I see. Okay. Yeah.
I don't even think my car's worth that. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
I would really like to get more surprise celebrities on the podcast. So celebrities that you didn't know have an interest in plants and gardening, because I think that is always a nice angle, because, you know, if we're not careful, we can end up just talking to the same circle of people. You know,
Yeah.
I'm always obsessed with kind of, you know, busting out of that and like looking, you know, into different categories, kind of things that people wouldn't expect. And that's indeed what I do with a lot of my different brands, like obviously Rude Botany, which is, you know, getting people that like looking at pictures of things that look like dicks. So that tends to work really nicely.
And that, mate, on the thanks for swearing on the podcast. That's great. Do you know who you should get on? I really want to hear you speak to Rylan Clark about gardening.
Yeah.
Plastic garden, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I know him fairly well, so I might, try and get him to do something.
I'm sure garden. He's got astroturf, plastic plants. It'd be good to chat to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because we did artificial turf on this morning with him, probably about 3 years ago now. But to be honest, how things have developed on artificial turf, I probably wouldn't dare do a segment on that now. Do you know what I mean? No.
Definitely. It's funny to say that actually today I had pop up in my Insta that I did a article on why it was between me and Matt Biggs, and he was saying why artificial lawn is bad, and I was saying this was 3 years ago, so let go of that now, of why it was good. And
really? But Gardner's World were paying you to do that, so of course you would say it's good.
He basically says to anybody, "I'll do anything for money."
No, but you know what? There's always two sides to something. You know, there's, as long as you've got one that's sustainable, you treat it in the same way, then you could use artificial turf. It's the problem when you're using that and not attracting any wildlife, or you're disposing of it in an irresponsible way. So there's always two sides to stuff. Yeah, it was for this what do they call that column where they put two people up against each other? Because I did one where they put me up against someone talking about bedding plants, and I had to love bedding plants, which I do, so it was fine.
The fence, I think it was called.
Yeah. Who was against me? I think Nigel done it. I think.
Oh really? I wonder who won. Who won?
But you never talk to each other. You just have to submit your side of the argument, and they submit their side of the argument, and it's job done. But yeah.
Reader decides. If you could design, Perry, if you could design, or not actually, if you could do another podcast, keep plant-based going, obviously, but do another podcast on something totally different, maybe even a bit niche, what would you do it on?
Niche would be, obviously, well, to me, niche would be talking about, you know, the really unique plants, kind of delving into the background, the breeding, all of that sort of jazz, which I'm planning at the moment.
Oh, really? Oh,
which Ellen knows about, so don't go telling her thinking you're going to grass on me. That's an exclusive. You can mark that down as an exclusive. Put a flash on the screen.
I wish I had a flash. Oh, dear, dude.
I just realised I can watch myself.
It's amazing. It's the technology, mate. I mean, the way you talk about it is it's like I'm talking to my granddad.
What? Shut up. But why is no one commenting?
It's very quiet on the comments tonight. Usually
the only person commenting is bloody me.
Yeah.
embarrassing myself because I was chatting to Tasmin. She didn't even reply. And then I called her Tasmin, not Tamsin. Damn it.
Usually when we have people, no one talk usually during chats like this. But then when we do the phoning, usually when we've got people on like this, no one wants to talk. Everyone just wants to watch.
Oh, I see. Right. And do you find people watch it afterwards as well? Because that is almost, you get as many people afterwards watching it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if people have 2 hours. I mean, some people might 2 hours spare to watch back. But
it is hard. And during lockdown, sometimes it was hard because there was so much online content, and you almost like had to structure your day around those things and the Facebook Lives and the different things that were all interesting, but it just was a very different world from when we were kids and there was just 4 TV channels. Like now, everything is everywhere. There's content all over the place. It's just mad.
Yeah. The way people take it is totally different now, isn't it? But
yeah. But I can still never find something on YouTube that I want to watch. A million videos and nothing I want to watch. Hello? Have you frozen?
Hello? Oh, have we lost Perry? Oh, there you are.
I'm
disappeared.
I was always here.
Mate, if people want to find out, oh, actually, that's what we know. I must get this in. I know we're going a little bit over, but you have been the only podcast that have taken you and Alan, to YouTube.
Oh, really?
Why? Well, that's all I mean, I put clips up of my actual the show, but you're the only ones that have done actual filmed.
I see.
But why? What's that all about, man? What's going on there?
Well, just because it's nice to have a visual element to the sort of stuff that you do, and we initially planned it as a kind of just something we would do when we weren't releasing podcast episodes. So yeah, videos seem to be, we've got a nice dynamic. So yeah, we just filmed a set of videos. We obviously had them last year, and we've got a set going out over the next couple of months as well. So yeah, so they're on the YouTube channel, but also on the YouTube channel, our podcast gets, what do you call it, syndicated to there. So like, when, I don't know how you do your podcast, but you upload it to one thing and then it puts it everywhere. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It also
I don't upload it. I'm really not techie, so
just do the talking. It's good though. I really like your plant. I mean, I watched your comedy routine the other day, which was
cool.
I mean,
we just wanted it to be something that's very different to any other garden program that you've seen, but being light-hearted, but still imparting our knowledge at the same time. But I think you can do that without being too serious and without being too snooty about it or condescending, or kind of, you've got to make stuff achievable to people and not kind of protect our horticultural knowledge in such a way that we're not sharing it with people, because ultimately that's what we want, isn't it? And sometimes I think we've got our eyes closed to the fact we're always like, we want more people to come into horticulture, but actually if we open our eyes, people are mad about plants at the moment. This is our golden moment. Like, we just need to look and just harness those people, but bring them in a really non-stuffy, easy to understand way. I don't know if you've seen on my website, I've started up a little directory called What the Fuck Gardening. And it's like a glossary. But it's a glossary that takes a lot of these phrases that you hear for years, like pricking out. What does that mean? Composting. What's composting really mean? What is soil? So we do one of those like each kind of every 2 weeks. And yeah, and that's been really popular because finally we're trying to explain to people in plain terms. We're not kind of keeping it all half a secret. I don't know. Yeah. Although maybe we don't intend to do that, but yeah. So I'm quite proud of what we produced there, to be honest.
It's good. Dude, thanks so much for your time tonight. Thanks for coming on.
Really fun.
happy International Podcast Day. And I look forward to seeing you on the showground soon.
Cool. Yeah, you too.
But yeah, nice to see you, man. Thanks so much, dude.
Cool. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Oh dear. Mr. Michael Perry there. From the Plant-Based Podcast. We didn't say that at the end. The Plant-Based Podcast, if you want to check that out. And also Plant-Based TV as well. If you've just joined us, I know there's been loads of comments coming into not loads and loads, not as many as usual. By the way, if you've just tuned in, we're here every night, every Monday to Thursday, 8 till 10, with usually a phone-in from some amazing crew, the VIP crew. You can become part of that, but tune in tomorrow. But tonight we are interviewing some of the best gardening podcasters in the UK. Let's check out some of the comments that we had throughout that. Alison says, just want to say, social media gets a lot of stick, but due to it, I have gained the most amazing content providers for our online Be Green Fest in November. You never know where things will lead. So true. I think with social media, I mean, I'm one to speak. I've just deleted everyone, but but it is an amazing way to contact people and get things started. Yeah, I mean, Suggett says, yep, when Plant-Based was released, there was a huge surge in interest. I mean, like I said, I do give Perry some bants, but I've got to say, when they did start their Plant-Based podcast, did make a big difference, and people sort of it wasn't one of those things of what's a podcast. It sort of everyone sort of knew a little bit more about it. Good evening, Liam Webb. Hope you are well. Paula, hello Paula, how are you doing? The live Plant Geek quizzes were class, says Paula. She loved it. They were too complicated for me. I watched. They were too hard. Vobes appeared on that Nostalgia podcast. Richard Vobes, if anyone's listened to him before. Liam listens to Chris Brown. We won't judge you. Alison also says, oh my god, I'm finding unflopped, but sounds... That's not okay, I can't read that. This is going out tomorrow. This podcast. I've got to edit Perry now. Would love to see more garden podcasts that raise the profile of horticulture, and would love to see that translate into improved careers and salaries. Yeah, well, do you know, all the podcasts that we've got on tonight, definitely do that. Who we had on right at the start, Sol Walker, and the Talking Heads podcast is a real great one for that. They really push that a lot, especially for like head gardeners and that side of careers. So go check that one out. I'll put it all in episode notes at some point. Alison said, anyone interviewed Sue Biggs? We have had an interview on the Skinny Jean Gardener podcast, unbelievably. And we're going to get, I did put an email, I think it's going out tomorrow, but for the RHS to come on this show again. But yeah, we had Sue Biggs on the show once upon a time. Talking about, I think we were at Hampton Court, and we're talking about things like that. Let's have a look. A debate. Oh, Alison's looking for a fight. Let's have a look what everyone else is saying. Also saying, Alison's saying, love WTF gardening. Alex is moaning that he's not a VIP. We gave out a VIP card yesterday. We give them out tomorrow, Alex. Don't panic. And Charlie says, hi. Hello, Charlie. Good evening. Probably the youngest audience on this show. So I hope you're good, Charlie. I hope things are well. VIP. If you ring in tomorrow, Charlie, VIP card coming your way. Right. Okay. We've got coming up Jane Perrone. Jane Perrone interview was a pre-record, which I did yesterday. And it's very, 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 very slowly loading at the top of my screen, which means we'll get a very early final ad break in, and then hopefully we'll be able to play that to you. So let's hit play on the advert.
This stream and this podcast is sponsored by Flymo, home of the hover. I made that one up myself, but that should be their tagline. Home of the hover glide. That's my impression of a Flymo hover. Glides across the ground, so easy, so simple. I love Flymos because they make cutting your lawn and caring for your garden so easy. Plus, they've got, I'm just looking around the corner here, an easy glide I've got here. I've got a hover vac. Both are brilliant for different sized gardens. Plus, they've got a new easy store, so you don't even have to plug it in. You put a battery in it and you drive about cutting your lawn. No wires. How easy is that? If you want to find out more and see what I'm talking about, then check out flymo.com right now. This stream is also sponsored by How to Get Kids Gardening, my book, Lee Connolly's book, a top 10 gardening book of 2020. Not my words, but the words of the Independent. Also, in this book, Lee has brought together my passion of nature and wildlife, along with my love of grow your own. Not my words, the words of Jimmy Doherty, of Jamie Oliver's mate. But let's have a little flick through, see what you could do at home as a family. Maybe you could create this, a bird feeder. That's right, you can create a bird feeder just from a plastic bottle. It's really simple, really cheap, really easy, a great activity to do with the kids to get outside whatever space you've got. How to Get Kids Gardening, available on Amazon for just a tenner. Ooh. Could your product or service be in this part of the show, the advertising part here? If the answer is yes, I think you were thinking about it, weren't you? If the answer is yes, then get in contact at lee@skinnyjeangardener.co.uk. We can talk about saying hello, how you doing? Do you want this? Do you want this pen? Do you? Probably not. It's a digital world now, isn't it? But do you want to buy this pen? Then you can at Pens Are Us. That is just one example of the many advertising talents that I've got. So if you do fancy it on the stream, come support us, come sponsor us. lee@skinnyjeangardener.co.uk. Okay, 40 minutes of tonight's show to go. Hello to everyone that is watching or listening. If you want to listen to this, then you can listen back tomorrow morning from 6 o'clock. So maybe if you're like Stuart, who says, see you all tomorrow, keep up the good work. He's got to go to bed. He's got work tomorrow. Maybe you're like him. And you think, I wish I could watch this. Well, maybe I wish I could listen to this on the drive to work. Then the Skinny Jean Gardener podcast is the place to head to. Charlie is off to bed now. Hubby at work. Wifey relax and watching the show. Oh, wicked, Kelly. Nice one. Charlie, I think our youngest viewer of the show. Of the show there. So, coming up, the final part of tonight's show, we've got Jane Perrone. She's coming up, a pre-recorded interview. Dug it from the Veg Grow Out podcast. And if you're new to this show, welcome. Like I say, we're here every Monday to Thursday, 4 nights a week. And sometimes I think, we're only in the 4th week. Sometimes I think, 4 nights a week. Until I get here, until I get in the studio, and I'm like, love it. We get you guys, you lovely people, you listeners down there, to call in and chat gardening. We have different subjects every night. Sometimes we don't know where the show's going to go. Sometimes I rock up in the studio and we're like, yeah, hey. And then all of a sudden we get a phone call come in. And then we just can't. Like, literally the other day, we just talked about water butts for 2 hours. You wouldn't have thought we'd have got 2 hours of water butts in. That's going to be a good best of. That's going to be a good best of.
Right. You know, I'm just filling right now, do you? Just filling. Weight is so close to being loaded. This deal or don't. Yeah, we also did deal or no deal. We got copyright for it, but we did it. It was actually not a bad show, but it was complicated. I've still got to send Jane a tool. I know. So we mix it up a bit on this show, which is fun. And then we get the best of. So Skinny Jean Gardner show, the best of. We have a lot of guests usually on that are all about kids gardening, bringing in some of the callers to support that. One of the things we're trying to do is I'm dragging in you listeners. I'm dragging you in. One of the things we want to do next year is get schools gardening. That's the biggest thing for me. It has been for a long time. And just through this show, meeting people and speaking to parents and teachers and just people that are out there, feet on the ground, hands in the mud, making the real difference, is then people that are really help push this whole kids gardening thing for me. So if you want to tune into that, we're here every Monday to Thursday. Imagine a percentage on a video. It would be right now at 99.98%. For some reason, my system just wants to put everything in the cloud. I don't want it to go in the cloud, but that's what it wants to do. Somewhere put it in the cloud. I don't need it in the cloud. I don't need Jane Prone in the cloud. I need it down here on the podcast. Anyway, Richard Sucker, who? Says Michael Perry. He's not going to be happy with that. Perry is not going to be happy with that comment. You'll find out later on in the show. Paul Kelly, I should revisit. I think that's for the quiz. Perry's quiz that he did in lockdown. Bring back the quiz. I mean, we could all be back. I mean, we're here now. This is it. We're done. We're always going to be online. But we could be back in this position again. We could all be putting content out again in the new year or very soon, depending what happens. Who knows? Alison today, the Adobe Rush needs 8 gigabytes RAM to work. Who knew? It's a lot, isn't it? What? I don't even know what Adobe Rush is, if I'm totally honest with you. It's not a tech show. Let's not go into that. And Suck says Richard Zavobes had his own program called Snug and Cozy in the 90s. He did, didn't he? Do you reckon he'll mind us showing it tomorrow? What is it? It's Thursday tomorrow night. It's YouTube night, isn't it? On Thursdays at the end of the show, about 20 minutes before the end of the show, we watch YouTube and some gardening content. Maybe we'll watch Phobes' show. It's bonkers. Right, Jane is Perry's getting angry. Where's Jane? Jane's coming. Just give us 2 seconds. This interview that we did was yesterday. We did an interview yesterday all about gardening podcasts. And it was a really good chat. I really enjoyed it. Jane's podcast is On the Ledge podcast that would literally started, I think it was just before mine, back in 2017. Who knew? 90, it's about like 98. I don't want to touch it. The video is going to be, just wait for it, guys. Just wait for it. It's coming. People are like, he ain't got Jane on. I'm out of here. He's being late like Madonna. It's not Jane's fault. It's my fault for not uploading the video. No, it's not my fault. It's my fault No, it's not my fault. It's the computer's fault for not uploading it. Come on. It's got to be almost there now. Come on. Let me have a look. I don't want to touch it just in case. Come on. This video's almost... Come on. I'm going to press it and see what happens. Come on. It's got to be almost there. This is called content, this. Or filler. I hope it downloads. Just amuse yourself. We've done the last advert break, haven't we? We got them in. We got them in. We'll just sit here in silence for a couple of minutes, shall we? There were some other podcasts that I really like, and we didn't manage to get them on tonight. Obviously, there's Gardner's Question Time, which I dip in and out of. Gardner's Question Time, mainly when Biggsy's on. I really enjoy that. Another one, which I don't think I got through to him, but another one that's been really good and I've enjoyed is Adam Frost's one. Jez Rose and Adam Frost. Really good podcast, really laid back, really enjoyed it. I couldn't get through to him. I didn't get that them guys on it. But maybe we'll do another one like this. Maybe we'll do another show like this, which is better than waiting for this video. Yes, the video's here. God, thank God for that. Right. Maybe I'll talk about who my favourite ones are later on. This knock yourself off the stream, Lee. Right. Today for International Podcast Day, we've got the one known. Oh, this is going right a mess. We are back. Right, okay. Whack in the comments if you can see me, guys. Whack in the comments if you can see me. Right. Coming up now is the podcast with Jane Perrone. Let's share the screen. Let's make this work. He says, what goes on? Technology. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is better to do it face to face. Let's have Jane Perrone on the podcast, guys. Here we go. Obviously, my internet didn't work that day, but Jane's worked absolutely perfect. Today, for International Podcast Day, we've got the one and only Jane Perrone. Hello, Jane.
Hello.
Welcome to the show that is this.
Who decided it was International Podcast Day? I mean, I'm not questioning that, but it's like, is this some official day, or did some podcaster dream this up? I don't know anything about it really.
I've heard about this before.
Well, I have, but I'm kind of never really figured out, like, what is it? Has it come from the States? Is it one of those kind of things? Is it, I don't know. It's all good. I'm not criticizing. I'm like, I need to know the origins of this exciting day.
It is from the United States, and I don't think anyone really in the UK does much about it, especially like gardening-wise.
Which is good.
Yeah, I use it as an excuse to bring everyone together on one day and say, hey, look at these amazing gardening podcasts that are going about. Because so many people, since starting this live show that I've been doing, like so many people have found out about other gardening podcasts, and there's so many out there. So bring it all together in one day, give everyone a choice.
Awesome. That sounds good. Well, yeah, and as I say, I always want to know, like, who dreamed this up?
So I can talk a lot of rubbish for a long time. Someone described it as what the other day on Twitter.
Well, I think that's the thing with it being podcasting. I mean, I don't know about you, but like these podcasts that are very highly scripted, it's incredibly difficult to read a script well. Do you know what I mean? To read a podcast script and make it not sound really stilted is incredibly hard, which is why I don't really write scripts, because it just makes it sound terrible. And I'm sure people sort of, I don't know whether people think mine's scripted or not, but most of it is not. But it's not completely unplanned, but it's coming out of a place of realness, as opposed to me reading off a piece of paper. But that's a skill you have to kind of learn. And there's a lot of editing. As you know.
You got into you started your podcast, which I thought was really, when you started it, I thought that's really good that you got in niche with it and went houseplants, because before that you did like garden as a whole, right? Like grow your own everything.
Yeah. So I did when I was at I was a gardening editor at the Guardian for about 9 years, and I was already into podcasts. You know, when Serial came out, I was already listening to podcasts then, and I thought it'd be great to do a gardening podcast at the Guardian, and I managed to persuade them to do one, which was with me and Alice Fowler, who is the columnist there, and that was really good fun. I loved making that podcast, and we won a Garden Media Guild Award for it, and it was really good. And then when that ended, because they weren't really that interested in gardening as a podcast topic, we were, but the Guardian as a whole just didn't have the resources to keep going with it. So that ended, and I just felt really sad that I wasn't podcasting anymore. And I just kind of thought, actually, houseplants are where it's at. Houseplants have always been the thing I've been passionate about, and this is why not just start one? I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to start one. And fast forward 3.5 years, and still rocking it on a weekly basis.
It's gone really fast. Like, you've built up. Is your audience like mainly American? Because a lot of the you have like caller of the week sort of thing, and
yeah, there's a good chunk of them who are in the States and North America. There are obviously lots of Brits as well, but I'd say the top three are probably North America, the UK, and Canada, possibly, or Australia, possibly. But yeah, there's a really global audience. I heard recently from a listener in Bermuda and one in Indonesia. So there's like people all over the world, but yeah, mainly North America. Obviously, like North America is a big place, and there's lots of people with houseplants. So hence, it has built a big audience there. But yeah, lots of Brits as well. So it's a real mix. It's a real international mix. And there's a few little confusions, because sometimes I'll use a phrase and the Americans don't really know what I'm talking about. Some of them ask me, what does it mean when you're chuffed?
Yeah.
So yeah. And you have to be a little bit careful about compost, because to them, the only meaning of compost is something that's in the garden in a heap. Compost doesn't mean what, like, stuff that you might put in a pot for a house plant. So I have to call it like potting mix, because they get confused. Well, not most of them have kind of like got up to speed, but I still call it potting mix because it just causes a bit of confusion otherwise. So yeah, there's a few different terms, and they don't really seem to have horticultural grit over there.
Right. Okay.
And what is that? Anyway, yeah. So there's a few different.
Else?
I don't know why. But yeah, there you go. I don't know what they do for grit. Americans have got no grit. Perhaps they do and they call it something else, but I haven't found that out yet. But it's really fun. That Meet the Listener slot is really, really fun, because it is a chance for people to tell me about, answer my ridiculous questions, and it's really nice to hear from listeners. So I really enjoy doing that bit.
Do you have a hardcore crew of listeners that are always commenting and always taking part?
There are always the super fans, aren't there? Yes, I do. And there's a lovely listener called June who I've done some brilliant plant swaps with over the years when I've met her at various events. And other listeners who've sent me plants. There's a few that are, I would say, my super fans, and they're really brilliant, because every time you do anything, they'll be shouting about it, and they're really dedicated to the show. And so yeah, I love my super fans. There's a real nice bunch of people, and that's the lovely thing, is that everyone is very supportive, and unlike other areas of podcasting in the internet, you don't really get any trolling, which is great. Long may that continue.
Yeah, You build up like I felt like I have through like podcasting, but like a little bit of a community of like like-minded people, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, through the Facebook group that I run for listeners and through my Patreon community, definitely there is a real community. And what I love about that is that, people often think, gosh, can there really be drama in the houseplant community? But trust me, there can. But my Facebook group is like completely drama free. There are no ridiculous spats or anything like that. It's all very well behaved and lovely and friendly and kind. So that's a really nice community, because I know sometimes with, gardening communities can go badly wrong when there's ridiculous arguments, human beings being human beings. But we're trying to keep that out of my group, and it's lovely. And yes, that's why the show is possible, because I have followers who are prepared to send me money every month to on Patreon to make the show. So that's really great to have that support.
And you do sew along each year, is it?
Yeah, so every spring I do a houseplant sew along. People sort of say, why bother? Because like houseplants, you can buy full plants, but it's a few different reasons why I do it. One, I think you understand a lot more about plants when you start growing them from seed, from growing veg and things, when you grow it from seed. Not to say that there's anything wrong with buying plug plants of any plant, but you do learn a lot about the plant. You end up with a lot more plants for your money, which you can then give away or swap. And you can just buy more packets of seed and end up with more plants. So that's why I encourage that. And people grow some crazy stuff every year with that. So we've had people growing Swiss cheese plants, cacti, carnivorous plants. One they really seem to love is the sensitive plant. Have you ever come across that? Mimosa pudica, which is a plant you've probably seen it in the garden centre, and it looks like a little ferny thing. And when you touch it, it kind of all retracts.
I have.
People love growing that from seed. So yeah, there's lots of different things people try growing, and I'm always impressed by the success people get. In fact, hang on, it's a bit wilted at the minute, but this is a plant that I grew this last year. I've just given it a drink because I've realised it's wilted. But this is an epicea which I grew from seed. So yeah, you can grow some interesting stuff, and it's good fun. So yeah, I enjoy that, and it's going to roll around soon enough. I'm sure we're zipping through the year already. There'll be another sew along before long.
Houseplants are one of them things which the only houseplants I can really look after are spider plants.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you don't like calling it this, but the mother-in-law's tongue one.
Oh, don't give me that phrase. Don't give me that phrase. Yeah. Mother-in-law's tongue. I do think I'm not a mother-in-law, but one day I might be, and I really hope that people are going to not call that. Sansevieria or snake plant, yes, is a brilliant plant. Really tough. It's a great plant to grow if you find that you are, don't really look after house plants particularly well for whatever reason.
You've done over 150 episodes now. Yeah. What would you say out of all of those episodes is probably your favourite? Who's the favourite guest or a favourite episode you've done?
So I did get asked this the other day. Well, I really like making episode 100 because I sort of had listeners phone in with their reflections on the show, and I did a little blooper reel which included my son, which I just still love. It almost makes me cry listening to that because it's got all these funny outtakes, like me spotting a bird in the garden when I'm recording and going off on one, and my son trying out the microphone and his little voice going, hello. It's not I love that because that just reminds me of a lot of happy times. And I would say also probably the episodes where I went to James Wong's flat are still my favourite because I just got them really overexcited and they were great fun. So yeah, those are probably up there. I mean, whenever I visit do a visit to somebody, it's always amazing. I also people love the episode I did on lithops, living stones, where I went to visit a nursery in the Peak District, and that was a really good episode because the nursery owners, this couple, were just hilarious and great fun. So yeah, those are probably some favorites. But I'm sure you find like the episodes slip by, you think, my gosh, how have I made 157 episodes? I can't believe that it is.
When I first started, I remember with our mutual friend Mr. Donegan, and he had like so many episodes, and I was like on episode 2, and I was like, oh my god, I'm never gonna get up there.
Yeah.
It goes so quickly.
It does. It does. When you were making, especially if you're making, a really regular show, like a weekly show, it really does. You're on to the next one before you can even breathe. And I do sometimes wonder how I manage to make a weekly podcast. How am I doing this? But somehow every week a show comes out at the end of the week. So it's all good. But and obviously I'm adding now onto that the prospect of writing a book. So I'm slightly daunted by that. But
you let me into it. Fine. That's well exciting though. Like like talking about houseplants for 3 years and then come into a book.
Yeah, well, it's difficult because I'm a lot, I have wanted to write a book about houseplants. The last book I wrote was about allotment, and that came out over 10 years ago. So it's about time I wrote another book. But I don't know about you, don't know how it went with your book, but I found that I had very specific ideas about the book that I wanted to write, and I wasn't prepared to compromise. And so that's why I decided to crowdfund it, because the publisher that I'm using, Unbound, basically they don't mess with your idea. You come up with an idea, and if they agree to it, they just let you get on with it. And I really like that approach because, like, rather whatever, I feel like I've got a very specific idea of what I wanted to do, and I didn't want it to be kind of stamped on by somebody else or reshaped by somebody else. So yeah, it stands or falls now on my idea, which is great. But it's great, but it's a good way of doing it because it also means that I can draw on the support of my podcast listeners, and hopefully when it does get funded, that it'll be something that I know will appeal, and I know that there's a demand for, because enough people will have pledged to make it happen. So
at the moment, tell me, what is the percentage? How far are you getting on?
I'm 20% at the minute. It launched last Wednesday, and I'm on 20%.
How can people find out about this? How can they get on the link?
If you go to, she says, I haven't actually quite got it live on my website yet, but if you go to unbound.com, I think I'm on the front page of unbound.com now. Let me just look at this now while I'm talking to you. Rather unprofessionally, I should have checked this beforehand. If you go to the front cover of Unbound, you'll see it. It's there. Yeah, it's on the front cover, unbound.com. Or you can just Google my name, and it's called Legends of the Leaf, and that is it's got a lovely green cover. Although I should say that cover is not actually the cover that is going to be on the book. That's just kind of stand-in cover, and the illustrations. The illustrations of the book are being done by a lovely illustrator called Helen Entwistle. So she's working on the cover at the moment, but it's a really cool cover nonetheless. So you can go on there and read more about the book and why I decided to write it. And there's various pledge levels that you can give, depending on whether you want to pay £10 for an ebook or a bit more for a signed edition and that kind of thing. So
once it's funded, when will it come out?
Well, I've got to write it. So I mean, I would hope, looking at how it is now at 20%, I would hope it will be funded well before Christmas, and then I will be really, going full hellfuller to write it. But obviously writing a book isn't the end of the process, as you know. I'm sure you found this too, that once you've handed that manuscript in and you kind of go, whew, and then you've got the difficult bit, which is the kind of the publisher coming back to you and saying, well, what did you mean by this? And you've got to go all through all the editing process. So as soon as possible is what I would say, but I'm not quite sure when exactly it will be. But I'm going to really, once it's funded, and I'm already actually starting to write it now before it's even funded. But yeah, I will really crack on and get it done. And I mean, I've written a book before. I know what's involved. So, how did you writing your book? Was it a bit of a shock to the system?
I hated it. I hated every second of writing it. I'm really good at ideas and like drawing, but then actually writing stuff I find really difficult. So that was my struggle. I like doing the photos and coming up with the ideas, but writing it in and also writing it in English is
Why? What language do you want to write it in?
I'm writing in Essex, so sometimes I send it back and they were like, I know you speak like that, but it doesn't make sense in writing.
You editor's worst nightmare. I can see it now. But that's the thing about writing a book is there's more to it than, I mean, the words are one thing, but there's more to it than that, and that's why it's a hard thing to do. It's got to be right, hasn't it? Because people will be referring to your book, I'm sure, and you've got to make sure all your projects and things work and that everything's right. And for my book, it'll be a case of, I mean, my plan is to make this book something that doesn't just give you the same advice that you see everywhere for houseplants. That it'll be really well researched with really good advice and really interesting stories that you won't have heard about these plants, rather than just kind of like regurgitating all those terrible listicles you see on the internet about houseplants. So I'm hoping that it'll be a good book. I mean, I've got the advantage in that this is what I do. Writing is my job for over 20 years. So I'm hoping that that side of it won't be too much of a struggle. But we'll see. I mean, writing's hard. Writing's sweat inducing. It's not an easy thing. I've got to write my column for Gardens Illustrated after this, and every time I come to it, you sort of sit there and you've got a blank empty page. You think, God, okay, I've got to get down to it. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do. So I sympathise.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see it. And on the Ledge podcast, go listen to it, everybody.
Goes on and on. And yes, you can, if you listen to the most recent episode, you can hear my rant against the term butt chugging.
What?
Lots of Americans call watering plants from below butt chugging. And I've said to them, that's wrong. That's just not nice. Say watering from below. But yeah, so I had a little word with my listeners and said, please don't use the phrase butt chugging. It's not nice.
We've all learned something here.
I mean, I know the term. I think it is, as an English person, I find that maybe it's just because I'm old, but I find the term butt. I never want to say the word. It's bottom, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the bottom of a pot or whatever, it's bottom. I find
you really say, "I'll get the butt of the pot." Yeah.
Well, when I have to say, one of the great things about my show is, and I'm, having lived in the States for a couple of years, I know this to be true, is that American people will forgive you anything if you've got a British accent, because they immediately add 10 IQ points to your IQ just because you sound British. So I just take advantage of that, really.
Yeah, go for it. I wish I had more American listeners. I could take advantage of that too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't a strategy. I can honestly say it wasn't a strategy. It just happened. So I don't have any words of wisdom to tell you about that. But yeah, I don't know.
Here we go. Jane, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Pleasure.
I can't wait to listen to what other episodes you've got coming up in the future for us.
I have got an episode coming up where I interview somebody who's written a lovely illustrated houseplant book. Talking about her houseplant illustrations. I'm also going to see Sarah the plant rescuer, who you might have seen on Gardener's World. She does an amazing job. She rescues loads of plants. I'm going to go and see her. And I've also got an episode. My second episode ever was about the Swiss cheese plant, and I'm going to reboot that episode because a lot's happened in the last 3 years, and do another Swiss cheese plant episode. So,
awesome. Thanks so much, Jane. Look forward to listening. And there, ladies and gentlemen, there we go. Jane Perrone from On the Ledge podcast. Today is International Garden Podcast Day. One man that has been sitting ready and waiting to go, watching that. Also celebrating. You know him as the Butt King. That's a private joke from the stream. But we know him also as Mr. Richard.
That brings butt chugging to
Hey,
a whole
mate.
different meaning now, doesn't it? Hello, mate. You all right?
Mate, thanks so much. We're running late, but sounding great tonight because I have technical issues, but it's not anything different than the usual, is it? How are you, dude?
Hey, I'm good. Getting tired now, so but I'm going to have an argument with the wife and the missus because it'll be so late when I go to bed.
Ah, well, you can blame me. So you should be okay.
I always do blame you. How you doing?
Yeah, good, man. We've had a good show tonight. Some good chats about podcasts and Celebrating the Garden podcast, which has been awesome. Mate, the Veg Grower podcast has been going. Now, how many years has the Veg Grower podcast been going for?
7 years.
7
long
years.
years. 7 years, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man. And
I mean, when I started, there was only a handful of gardening podcasts out at the time. And majority of those were, I think the RHS had one, Gardener's World, and the Sod Show. I think they were the only UK-based ones I could find at the time. And there was quite a few American ones, which were great, but they used different terminology, as James just expressed. And I felt we needed something UK-based. So I built my own, as you do, you know.
like when you first started, mate, like you say, there wasn't many about. How did you even know, really? Like podcasting 7 years ago is very different to how it is now. How did you even really know what to get, how to start, all that sort of stuff?
Well, the first 2 episodes I actually recorded on a hands-free kit on my phone while driving around the M25. I can remember it now. But when I listened back to that, the audio quality was rubbish, so I didn't use it. And back then there was not the ability to do what we can do now. So I got myself again a proper microphone that I plugged into my phone, edited it all on my phone, built myself a website, and done it all through that because that's all we could do at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I mean, a lot of the hard work I had to do back then to get it up and running, you just go to one place, upload your podcast to then, it goes everywhere. So easy these days compared to then. Now that being said, when I first listened to podcasts, this is back in 2005, 2006, Wi-Fi wasn't on every single phone. iPhones didn't actually exist then. And how we used to listen to podcasts then was we had to download it onto our laptop, plug a laptop into our iPod via cable, and move it over.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. It was a nightmare. It just shows how far podcasts have came since then.
What was your content like back then, Rich? What was it? Is the same sort of thing now, or has it obviously evolved in 7 years?
It's evolved a lot in 7 years. In the beginning, it was very much just the diary section that I do, that I'm talking about what I'm doing, and it was very much just recorded in a shed. There was no real editing going on. There was a lot of trying to think what I was saying. I did do scripts, but there was a lot of pauses and stuff. And now it's certainly a lot of work still to do, but it's certainly evolved into something I'm a lot happier with and feel a lot more like it's got a slightly professional feel to it now.
Did you feel like you needed to just get started and just almost find your voice?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, back then I was the type of person that wouldn't say boo to the goose. So I was very afraid of putting my head above the parapet. My wife didn't even know I was doing podcasting for the first 2-3 years.
What?
She didn't know I was doing it. She didn't know I was doing it. I was just recording it in silence. And it was very, I mean, partly I was bullied a lot at school, and I never spoke about my gardening with my friends at school because I was afraid that I would just give them an excuse. And I think that carried on when I started podcasting. And it gave me that outlet that I could talk to no one, but still talk to people who were listening, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But now I'm pretty happy talking about it and getting on with it.
Happy to say boo to geese.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's when they say boo back.
Yeah, that's a scary part. How many episodes have you done now?
364 just out on Monday.
Wow, man, that's a lot of episodes to like look back and say, oh, this is my favourite one. But have you got a favourite?
You know what? I was dreading this question. I don't exactly have a favourite episode. There's some that have stood out a bit more. I think the first time I interviewed you was the first time we ever met. That was one of my top ones, purely because I was completely stepped out of my comfort zone then. When we first spoke, I was like very, very nervous to talk to you. But that day we then sat down and did this interview, and I was completely stepped out my comfort zone there.
Gardner's World?
Gardner's World, yeah. I think that was 3 years ago. Did
we do it backstage, like around a table, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
I remember it. I remember it so well in my head. And you know I'm rubbish at remembering stuff.
I had a guy on once who catches moles for a living. He actually contacted me. We met up at a show, and I don't like seeing animals injured or anything like that, but that one stuck out in my mind because his overriding theme was, if you have a garden and you've got moles, don't worry about it. Just let them do their own thing. That one certainly stuck in my mind.
His job was a mole catcher?
His job was a mole catcher, and he was trying to put himself
out of a job.
He was. I'm going to have to find when he's at a show, and we're going to have to go see him because he's really entertaining. But
is he still a mole catcher?
He's still a mole catcher, yeah. He does a lot of. He catches these moles quite often in order for people to come and film them. But he's very much, you will film them, and then as soon as that mole gets agitated or it's time to go back, it goes back regardless of whether you got the footage or not.
How far back have we got to go to listen to this mole catching episode?
Oh, that might be about 3 years ago.
Right.
I can't quite remember. 2-3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, put that up on social tomorrow, mate. That needs to be my Thursday morning listen.
Yeah, I'll have to dig that out and let you know.
Go on.
Also, he was a really interesting chap because of the fact he was targeting gardeners to get them to get rid of moles.
It's an interesting one, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you had any others that stand out to you?
There's so many. There is so many. I'm trying to think. There's so many to go through, especially over the last couple of months. When I've gone out to somewhere like where was it? Some of the shows I've gone to, be it CD Sunday or Gardner's World or Chili Fiesta at Westdean, they've been really good because I've got the atmosphere in the background going on, and I've really liked those as well.
I've always said about your visit podcasts are have to be the best I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
The first one I ever listened to that you did was actually, I think, Gardner's World.
Yeah.
You probably not ones before, but the one I actually sat down and listened to proper, and you went from literally the car park to parking the car park. I was like, no one goes into these things in much deeper in as much detail, but that's what people want to know about.
But that's the thing. I do something that I park in a car, which two of guests, and I consider myself. I try and go into these events as a guest, as just a standard punter.
Yeah.
And somewhere, as much as I love Gardner's World live, the show, but £16 to park your car, and if you're not aware of that beforehand, that suddenly adds up to a lot more money on top of £20 tickets or whatever it is.
Yeah.
These days,
a bit of a downer when you first rock up there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But then there's always ways, if you're aware of it, there might be other ways that you can try and save some money. Whether you catch a train to these events because it works out cheaper, I don't know. But I think you've got to be aware of this sort of thing before you go.
Yeah, 100%, man. Is there any guest that you'd really, really like to get on?
Yeah, my granddad, which is impossible. Yeah, my granddad, he kind of inspired me to grow my own. And although he encouraged me, because my family's so big, I can't say we ever spent a lot of time just dedicated in the garden.
Yeah.
But when he passed away about 3 years ago, a story that the vicar told that I never knew about was that at the outbreak of World War II, my granddad, who his parents owned a nursery, a plant nursery back then, his headmaster pulled him aside and got him to teach all his students how to grow their own food in his tiny little Sussex village. And he was always quite the most humblest man you could ever meet. And I could never imagine him in front of a class teaching people.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that in some ways, him doing that helped those children go on and feed their parents.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what was going through his head at that time.
That's a really good answer, that, mate. Actually.
Yeah. You weren't expecting that, were you?
No, I weren't. It makes me feel really emotional. But one of the things, it's funny you say that. One of the things that I've been talking for ages, and not even for podcast and wise, but just audio wise, is I've said to my granddad that I really want to get him on, and just because they tell such amazing stories, and just to get that on audio.
Yeah.
From you saying that, I've been putting it off, but I must do.
That is one of my regrets, that I'd never done that when he was still here, and I was podcasting at the time, so I was a bit of an idiot to not do it.
It's one of those things that you just don't think sometimes.
Yeah, you think I was going to be here, don't you?
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Good. That's a really good answer, dude. Really good. You throw me now.
Sorry.
Your podcast is, especially recently, with your new members club that you've been starting up, creates a real community. Especially for your Sunday show you do, and the members club. Can you tell us a bit more about that? About what other bits? Like, we talked a bit about Perry doing his plant-based TV, but you do a lot of other stuff around it to bring people in.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, community was the key to making a podcast successful, because it creates a community, it creates people to chat. And I also had that element where I said, well, I was bullied and I was quite shy. I felt there was more people out there that were like that, and they had questions they wanted to ask, but were too afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Or didn't want it out in the public because they either looked stupid or whatever. They all completely ridiculous, but it is the psychological side of this.
Yeah.
And so I always felt that community was the way to bring everyone together. You get people who know what they're doing, who can pass on the information. You get beginners who want to ask the questions. And in the middle, all these people can just interact and share all this knowledge. And I think that's just so important, especially this day and age.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of really happy with the interaction I get with the listeners and the audience, and the fact that we are getting people. I mean, we've got people who are gardening for 60, 70 years listening to my podcast, and they'll come along and say, well, I've never heard of doing it that way, but I've tried it and it worked.
Oh, really? Wow, amazing.
Yeah. And then they've shared how they've done it, and I've gone away and tried it, and it's worked as well.
Yeah.
And that just, I don't think, this is the thing I love about podcasts, is that because it's so intimate, people get involved a bit more.
Yeah.
And they feel like you're talking, feel like there's a personal side to it. Sorry.
Right, no, it's quite a big. I mean, it makes it sound like you're some sort of superhero, but it's quite a big responsibility to be a podcaster, because you literally are breaking in on people's days. Like, they're either listening to you on the way to work or during the day while they're doing stuff, and you're actually in people's heads. Like, it's visually, like on TV and stuff. It's just a very different media that is a lot more personal, I think. Absolutely, it's intimate. I mean, people might be listening to you in their car, and it's just you and that one listener. Yeah, and that just creates what I've got to say. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. It's a very unique bond that we have. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like earlier when I was talking about listening to Mark Maron, like his podcast, and I think unfortunately his partner died during COVID and stuff. And because you listen to these podcasts over and over again, like you become attached to these people. And I just found myself crying. In fact, I think I can't remember what episode it was, but I texted you afterwards, and I cried. I think I cried to one of your podcasts. I can't remember what episode it was now. It's a long time. It's quite a while ago, but it was an episode that just really got me. And
yeah, was that when I was talking about my cousin?
That is it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I just really, yeah.
So, to everyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, my cousin committed suicide a couple of years ago, and that really knocked me for six because he was only 3 months older than me. But the one thing, I mean, he had epilepsy, and his epilepsy got so bad that he couldn't work, and he ended up taking his own life. But the one thing that he enjoyed in his only enjoyment was his garden and his gardening, and that. Again, it's that emotional connection we have with gardening that we don't quite realise is there. Here's another one I wish I had interviewed actually as well. So they're talking about it.
Yeah. Gosh. It's getting late. Mate, who do you listen to, dude? Like, what? I know you do a lot of driving about during the day. Who are you listening to? What's going on?
Yeah, it does depend. I mean, I listen to quite a lot of gardening podcasts, but every now and then I need a bit of a break away from the podcast. So LBC, if I'm in the area that I can get LBC, then I'll listen to that.
What is going on with LBC?
It's I think for a living, I'm a refrigeration engineer, so I do a lot of driving in the van, a lot of time on my own. So LBC gives me sort of voices that I'm listening to, same as podcasts.
Yeah.
If I'm not in the area where I can hear that, this is going to really probably shock you. Radio 4.
No, it doesn't shock me because I think there's some good stuff on Radio 4.
Oh, there's some brilliant stuff, brilliant stuff. And again, it's that interaction. I find radio that plays music all the time, you hear the same music, same song over and over, and I get really irritated.
Yeah, you got to be in the right. I don't think I've listened to radio and music radio for about, I'm going to say about 8 years now.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same.
Yeah, 8 years maybe, I reckon.
Yeah. But there are times when I need livening up, and that's when I tend to listen to 80s rock music. Cool. So you've gone from Radio 4 to 80s rock, Guns N' Roses, Metallica.
That's on a Friday on the way home, right?
Absolutely, you know
it. Mate, where do you see the future of podcasting? Where do you reckon it's going to go? Like it's grown so much in the past 7 years. What's going to happen?
I still don't think, and I think we've had many conversations about this. I don't think we've scratched the potential that podcasts have. No. There's so many different avenues that we can go down with, if we had enough time. The Americans, dare I say, the American podcasters have got onto it a lot better than what we have, and they can go into long podcasts, a lot of details. They tell stories really well. That is where I think we've got or where the potential is, getting those stories across. It is all about storytelling, after all.
It really is, and they are really good at it because there's not many podcasts like this. Podcast will go out as a 2-hour podcast or 2 and a bit more. Probably the longest one I've actually put out for a long time. But over in America, they can put ones out 3, maybe even 4. I know Joe Rogan's put one out that's been about 6 hours long. But
there was one podcast I used to listen to that was an hour and a half to 2 hours every day.
Wow. Again, it brings that back that community side of things, doesn't it? Like if you're along for the ride, if you're along for the story, then you'll sit and listen to that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a great thing. Sorry.
No, after you, my friend.
I was going to say, it's once you make that connection, people do come back and keep coming back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you must speak to so many listeners, like the regular listeners, a lot.
Yeah, I try and answer every single email or every single communication that I get. It's not easy, but yeah, but it's great because it does create that friendship and it's all based around gardening. and I don't feel any of the people I went to school with I have that same connection with.
Yeah, gardening and podcasting do that to you, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doug, you are almost a co-host on my podcast during the week, but for everyone that just wants to just listen to you, where can they? Obviously, the usual podcast, where can they find out more about you?
The veggrowerpodcast.co.uk is my website. You'll find everything on there that you need to know. But you'll find me on pretty much every single podcatcher service out there that is going.
Nice one, dude. Thanks for waiting about, mate. And
no worries.
I'll speak to you later.
Have a good one. Cheers, dude.
Nice, see you later.
See ya.
Here we go, everyone. Richard Suggett ending tonight's show. I felt like I was going to cry halfway through that. Maybe I am getting a bit tired. But that is it. That is the end of the show tonight. If you want to listen back, maybe you're just caught up at the end, or maybe you're listening right to the end. A nice one. Then this will be on the best of podcast available. St. John Garden Podcast in Apple, Spotify, all those places. Just like Suggett said with the Veg Grower Podcast. We have got through quite a lot of podcasts tonight. That means that this weekend you've got quite a lot of listening to do. International Podcast Day 2020. I think we've absolutely smashed it. We'll be back doing this garden chit chat tomorrow, 8 till 10. Thanks so much to everyone watching. Thanks so much to all of our guests tonight. Thanks so much to Sol, Tamsin. We've had Sarah. Thanks so much to Sarah. Thank you so much to Michael Perry, Jane, and of course, Mr. Richard Suggett. And obviously, to you guys for watching and listening. Much love. I'll see you tomorrow. Facilia. Or Pacilia, if you just read it off there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on.
Oh, I can't hear you, Anon. I've done something wrong with the thing. Anyway, Alison Who is what I got.
Good evening, Lee. How are you?
Great, mate. Your signal is always terrible, but I'm good, my friend. Excuse me. You got an allotment? When I go, don't put artificial grass on top of me, alright?
Are you going to get composted, Lee?
Yeah,